Cause I don't know how fake feel, nigga. Cause all my life I've been a real nigga.
What's good with y'all? It's Face the Real. Y'all know what it is, and it may sound like it, but there's no malice in my intent. That's real. Resident Evil, Biohazard. I love every single era of Resident Evil. The fixed camera angle games are my favorite, and when I was introduced to the series. The over-the-shoulder third-person games are extremely fun to this day, and the RE Engine games are a sight to behold. I love this series and have seen it evolve from where it started to where it is today. It is, in my opinion, the greatest gaming series of all time. Of course, there are other great gaming series such as Zelda and Final Fantasy, but I place Resident Evil ahead of them by a wide margin. Resident Evil came out in 1996 on the original PlayStation. Unfortunately, I knew a Resident Evil, but my strict mother would not allow me to play it. Her reasoning was the gun violence, and I remember her forbidding me to play it while Liu Kang beat her man until we exploded in the background. But I digress. In 1999, I finally got the chance to play Resident Evil 2 at a friend's house, and I enjoyed it. I wasn't in love with it since I had no idea how to control my character and could barely shoot the guns properly. However, the seed was planted, and I wanted the game even more, but my mother stood firm in her decision. It wasn't until summer 2001 that I was finally able to rent Resident Evil 2 for the N64, but I couldn't beat the game entirely over the 2 days I had the game. About a month later, my grandparents bought me Resident Evil 3 Nemesis due to good grades, and I wound up getting Resident Evil 2 on the N64 for Christmas later on that year. Ever since then, I have kept up with the series and bought all the main games multiple times across multiple systems. It grew to be my favorite gaming series, and seeing how it has transcended its own series and had characters in other games as well as mainstream movies, it's safe to say it's golden. But why? What made it so great? Well, Resident Evil is the pioneer of survival horror in gaming. There has been other franchises that came out beforehand, like Alone in the Dark, but Resident Evil has stood firm for years. With countless awards as well as nominations since its inception, this cannot be argued. It has also stood the test of time by reinventing itself repeatedly over the years, which can make or break a series. However, with Resident Evil, it actually made the series. The games themselves have always had some kind of thick atmosphere that either invokes fear due to the monsters or causes you to panic due to a lot of enemies swarming you. The original fixed camera angle games were famous for their creepy atmosphere, great soundtracks, diverse monsters, thought-provoking puzzles, and time-consuming item management. They were also known for their infamous backtracking, which was never a big deal to me outside of Code Veronica. These games are also speedrun heavy, meaning they are all the perfect length to beat in one sitting, and if you're quick enough, each game has its own set of unlockables. After critics as well as the average gamer were showing to be burnt out from the classic formula, Resident Evil had to reinvent itself. So, enter Resident Evil 4 that ushered in the over-the-shoulder third-person era back in 2005. Resident Evil 4 was such a huge success that it ended up being ported to every console on the market as well as PC multiple times, going against Shinji Mikami's wishes. I look at this era as the mindless fun era. You have a lot of enemies, a lot of ammo for your various guns, and a linear path to follow for the majority of these games. This is far from a bad thing since you can turn your brain off and just blast enemies away for a few hours, and sometimes even with a friend. This era divided a lot of fans the most, since a lot of the older fans didn't like the new approach to the series, while the newer fans preferred the new style over the old style. Me, on the other hand, greatly enjoyed both, and was equally looking forward to what Resident Evil was going to do next. After the critical failure of Resident Evil 6 in 2012, Capcom was forced to try to reinvent itself again. So they went back to their survival horror roots with RE7 in 2017, which revived the series. Ever since 2017, Resident Evil has had hit after hit with RE2 Remake, RE3 Remake, RE Village, and RE4 Remake, which are all great games in their own right. The newest era of Resident Evil seems to mix the classic style gameplay with the style they were going for within the over-the-shoulder third-person era. What I mean is that there is some focus on item management as well as backtracking, while still having an abundance of ammo and even enemies depending on what game you're playing. For example, RE2 Remake and RE7 plays closer to survival horror with tough enemies, lot of backtracking, and scarce resources. On the other hand, RE3 Remake and Village have a more action feel in comparison to the over-the-shoulder third-person era, except with slight horror moments throughout the games. To me, this balances it out very well. Did I mention how the games have always looked good since day one? The PlayStation 1 games did not age well for the common crowd, but actually remember how people were drooling over the game's graphics back then cannot be forgotten. There's something about the original trilogy's static backgrounds that give the games a feeling that is hard to recapture. The first Resident Evil remake is a game that I point to that has aged very well since it came out in 2002 on the GameCube, and it still holds up. The original Resident Evil 4 was the best looking game of 2005, and I am willing to personally argue with anybody about it. Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 6 came out on the PS3 and still look very good to this day. All of these games have been remastered for PS4 and look even better, which is almost cheating. The RE engine, aka the newest era of RE games, all look amazing. In fact, one could argue that the best thing about the underwhelming RE3 remake are the graphics and presentation. Capcom has seriously churned out some of the most detailed, realistic looking games I have ever seen throughout the years, and I feel this cannot be argued. Resident Evil has also sold over 140 million games worldwide, making it one of the highest selling gaming series ever created. To put in perspective, according to Google, it has sold nearly as much as Zelda, which comes in at around 150-160 million. However, Zelda came out about 10 years prior to Resident Evil, so that really isn't all that fair. Still, Zelda is a pretty huge franchise, so that in turn should show how huge Resident Evil is. The games all have really great replay value, so you get more bang for your buck. The classic games have a ranking system that gives you a letter grade depending on how quickly you beat the game, how many healing items you use, how often you save, and if you use special items or not, or weapons or not. Aside from the original release and its remake, all of the classic games have a hidden mode that's basically different minigames. RE2 and Code Veronica had the specific battle games, while RE3 had the original Mercenaries mode. RE0 has the Leech Hunter game where you collect leeches to unlock weapons and ammo to use in the main game. The over-the-shoulder third-person era basically overhauled the mercenary modes from RE3 and turned it into a horde mode that's unlockable after completing the main story. RE4 RE5 gives you the ability to upgrade weapons, with RE5 allowing you to acquire infinite ammo for the fully upgraded weapons. RE6 deals with a point system that allows you to buy infinite ammo for certain weapon types after you beat the game. The Revelation games offer a raid mode, which is essentially a horde mode where you can unlock more stuff for the main game and the mode itself. The RE Engine games have pretty much all the things the previous games have, except they implement challenges now as well. Basically, the challenges are the amount of enemies you kill with each weapon to beat in the games under certain conditions such as no healing or only using a knife. These challenges are tied to achievements and or offer you some kind of points to exchange for some kind of perk in the game. Also, my final point is that the story is serviceable and the characters are iconic. The story is basically all about evil men and or corporations selling horrific viruses for profit or trying to utilize the virus for world domination. The characters themselves are likable for the most part, with a couple that come to mind that are more annoying than tolerable. Here's looking at you, Steve.
Father!
Anyway, Jill is my favorite character in the series since she's strong, quick on her feet, throwing a lady in Star's Alpha Team, and stars in my favorite game in the series, which is RE3 Nemesis. She also has my favorite line in the series. Jill is a badass. Leon is my second favorite character in the series, and it's mainly off of his original RE4 appearance. I found his one-liners to be so cheesy they became iconic. And plus, he has a more agile fighting style that is a pure spectacle to watch sometimes.
I'm sure you boys didn't just tag along so we could sing Kumbaya together at some Boy Scout bonfire. Then again, maybe you did.
You gotta love Leon. Claire is my third favorite. I don't really have much to say about Claire other than she's hot. That's pretty much it. I also think she was at her best in Code Veronica. That's pretty much it. Chris is dead last, but he still has iconic moments in the games he appears in. For example, he has the best intro of the four since he showed off his rock climbing skills with no gear in Code Veronica. Ironically, Code Veronica happens to be my favorite version of Chris.
Following up on a lead given to me by Leon has brought me here. Don't worry, Claire. I'm coming to save you.
Alpha male to the full. Favorite villain is Wesker, and favorite stalker is the original Nemesis. All the enemies are iconic, from the humanoid lickers and amphibious hunters all the way down to the tyrants. The only enemy I hate are Banner Snatchers, because fuck Banner Snatchers. Anyway, you see what I'm getting at now? I haven't even touched on the fact that Resident Evil has been featured in other games from Fortnite to Dead by Daylight all the way to the Marvel vs. Capcom games. Not to mention, since there are movies out set in the universe, there are people that never even touched the games that know who Nemesis and Jill are, so the games have successfully crossed over into mainstream. I love the series. To me, it's exactly what a game series should be. A long-lasting series that adapted over time to get with the times, but still kept the quality intact for the most part. Well, that's about all I have to say today. What do you think about Resident Evil? Do you agree with what I said about the series? If not, what's your favorite gaming series? Do you even like Resident Evil? If so, what games have you played, if any? If not, why don't you like the games? Comment your thoughts down below. Oh, and if you made it this far, you are real, and I appreciate you, I truly do. You may as well drop a like, comment on the video if you feel like it, and share the video around to your friends and associates. And as usual, have a great day. Face signing out.